After months of silence, courtroom drama, and media mayhem, the story that once simmered behind the polished facade of Hollywood's elite has finally detonated in full public view. Justin Baldoni, once painted as a disruptive opportunist, has emerged from the ashes of a brutal legal and PR battle, not only vindicated, but redefined. And in a stunning twist that no one saw coming, Blake Lively, whose silence had been deafening throughout this explosive saga, has finally broken character. In an off-the-record, now confirmed discussion with a New York Times reporter, Lively admitted what millions had speculated but never expected to hear. In her own words, "It wasn't that bad." The comment made in reference to the now infamous text messages between her and Taylor Swift that catalyzed one of the most controversial celebrity defamation suits in recent memory. Wasn't just a throwaway line. It was a confession, and it ignited a backlash so fast and so fierce that even her most loyal defenders struggled to keep up. The very idea that Blake Lively, the quintessential media darling, the style icon, the mother, the America's sweetheart archetype, would describe the text that clearly detailed a reputation-smearing campaign against Baldoni as not that bad sent shockwaves through the industry. This wasn't just tone-deaf, it was dangerous, because those messages, casually manipulated, reputationally damaging, and now a matter of legal record, weren't written by some anonymous publicist in a PR bunker. They were Lively's words, Swift's too. Words that described Baldoni as a risk to the narrative, words that implied he should be neutralized before he goes full messiah mode, words that now serve as undeniable proof that image warfare is not just real in Hollywood. It's brutal, deliberate, and waged quietly in private group chats and encrypted in messages between power players who smile for cameras by day and scheme behind the curtain at night. Justin Baldoni, long dismissed as too earnest for this business, has now become the case study in surviving and triumphing over the Hollywood machine. From the moment he filed suit, he was mocked, underestimated, and labeled a distraction. But what few realized then is that Baldoni wasn't just out to clear his name, he was drawing a line. One that would hold people, powerful people, accountable not for what they do on camera but what they orchestrate when no one's looking. And when the judge ruled that the texts between Lively and Swift were relevant and admissible, that line became a wall. Baldoni stood tall while the court confirmed what he had always claimed. He wasn't imagining it, he wasn't paranoid, he was a target, and he had receipts. But it wasn't until Blake Lively's offhand dismissal of the texts that the story shifted from legal to existential. Because in those 4 words, it wasn't that bad, Blake didn't just dismiss her own actions. She dismissed the damage. She dismissed the years Baldoni spent watching roles dry up, brands walk away, friends fall silent. She dismissed the uncomfortable truth that in Hollywood perception is a currency, and what Lively and Swift's words sought to do was bankrupt his. It was a stunning failure of empathy, a grotesque show of arrogance, and a total betrayal of the image she'd spent over a decade crafting. The New York Times confirmed the quote after being pressed by multiple outlets who had caught wind of the private exchange. Lively's team, reportedly panicked by the leak, scrambled to issue clarification, insisting that the quote was taken out of context and that Blake was referring to the way the texts were presented, not their content. But the damage was done. The internet doesn't wait for nuance. Headlines splashed across every platform. TikTok creators dissected every word. Podcast hosts called it the modern Gwyneth Paltrow conscious uncoupling moment. A statement so wildly disconnected from public sentiment it triggered widespread outrage. Swifties still reeling from their idol's involvement couldn't defend it. Feminists who had once championed Lively as a representation of modern womanhood turned critical, pointing out that women with power are still responsible for how they use it. And Baldoni's supporters, they saw the quote as a gift, undeniable proof that Lively still didn't grasp the depth of what she'd done. In interviews since, Baldoni has remained composed. He hasn't gloated, he hasn't thrown Lively under the bus. He hasn't even mentioned Swift. Instead, he's focused on the larger theme, on the message that power without accountability is what keeps toxic systems alive. This was never about revenge, he told Variety in a recent sit-down. It was about truth, about the right to protect your name when it's being destroyed behind closed doors, and about refusing to let silence be mistaken for guilt. Those words have become a rallying cry across creative circles in Hollywood, especially among actors, directors, and producers of color who have long felt that they were one group, chat away from career extinction at the hands of more powerful, more connected players. Meanwhile, Lively's PR disaster has only worsened. A few days after the quote leaked, a major cosmetics company pulled a planned global campaign that featured Blake as the face of their authentic beauty line. Sources say the brand executives felt the statement contradicted the values of transparency and empowerment that the campaign was built upon. the fashion label she partnered with for her signature capsule collection, confirmed it would not be proceeding. Her agents, once among the most respected in the business, have gone conspicuously quiet. Even her appearances at a list events have been discreetly cancelled or rescheduled due to scheduling conflicts, which is Hollywood's polite euphemism for too toxic to touch right now. And yet in the midst of her unraveling, Lively has continued to project normalcy. Paparazzi captured her walking with her children, smiling faintly, perhaps determined to hold onto some semblance of control, but there's no script for this kind of fallout. No Vogue cover spread or carefully worded Instagram caption can recalibrate a narrative once the public has decided to turn. Her fanbase, once among the most loyal, has fractured. Reddit threads read like obituaries for her career. And even the lifestyle influencer community, which once treated Blake as their Pinterest queen, is distancing itself. We can't build brand trust around someone who gaslights. What she did, one influencer management agency wrote in a now viral industry newsletter. If it wasn't that bad as your takeaway from someone else's professional pain, you've already lost. Perhaps most devastatingly, her long-standing friendship with Taylor Swift has reportedly cooled in private. While Swift has not commented further since the texts were made public, insiders close to her team suggest that the leaked quote was seen as reckless and unhelpful. Swift's own PR strategy had been rooted in withdrawal, silence, and legal minimalism. Lively's comment, even if unintentional, pulled her back into the spotlight at a time when Swift's team was working overtime to rebuild goodwill. According to one well-placed source, Taylor's camp feels blindsided. She knew it was bad, but she didn't want to relitigate it in the media. And yet here they are, back under the microscope. For Justin Baldoni, the vindication has been deeply personal. In private comments shared with friends and allies, he's expressed a sense of peace. Not triumph, not gloating, just relief, the kind of relief that comes after being gaslighted by an entire industry only to finally be heard. His production company has seen a surge in pitches and partnership offers. New roles are on the table. His public profile has shifted from the nice guy who got caught in something messy to the man who took on the machine. And won. He has become a symbol not of vengeance but of resolve. And his silence, in contrast to Lively's ill-fated remark, has only made him seem wiser. The irony is brutal. The very quote Blake Lively tried to downplay as harmless has become the definitive line of her career. It wasn't that bad will be remembered not as a defense, but as a declaration of disconnect, a phrase that tried to flatten something profound into something trivial, and in doing so revealed just how deeply out of touch she has become with the reality outside her curated lens. Hollywood is watching, not just the fallout, but the precedent, because what Baldoni achieved, by staying patient, by refusing to be silent, by trusting the legal system and his own truth, was more than a personal win. It was a blueprint, and for every actor, writer, creative, or crew member who's ever been sabotaged behind closed doors by someone with more clout, it's a signal that the tides may finally be turning.